What's good everyone, Marcus back again, and today I have the video promised at the end of my last video reviewing the Go Strong Roller J cups with the hack to make these fit your metric or import style racks like the Rep Fitness racks. So if you watched my last video on these J cups, you'll note that I was dissatisfied. Overall, I think they're a great product and should be fantastic on paper, but in practice, there's a flaw in my opinion, and that's the fitment of these on the rack. A lot of people say, yes, that's due to the fact that you have a metric style rack or an import rack from Rep. And yes, that is an attributable factor. However, even Brandon demonstrated on his USA made Rogue rack how loose these fit.
Right here, and just a little push. That's different.
When the fitment is loose like these are, what happens is the J cups move on the uprights themselves, negating the purpose of having these. I really think the fault is not so much the fitment, but the fact that these have a single brace that goes and wraps around your post, whereas, for example, these round sandwich J cups that I have from Rep have the double wrap around. They come from either side, so you kind of swivel them into place, and that prevents slack from being either at the top or the bottom. With these hanging in the rack, once you have them slid onto the upright, you have this braced against the upright. With the weight of the bar, basically what happens is the J cup droops forward. You have a good fit down here, but there's nothing bracing the top of the J cup around the upright, and that creates the droop and the play. Whereas if it was designed like this sandwich J cup with the dual braces, I think that would eliminate a lot of the problems with the slack on this particular J cup. My immediate hack and fix for this J cup was to incorporate the use of these cheap wooden wedges, which I mentioned in that last video. And all I would do essentially was eliminate the slack at the top to wedge this in between the upright and the back of the UHMW, just like that, underneath the pin. And that would take out a lot of the slack at the top, preventing the J cup from drooping forward with the weight of the bar. That was temporary. My next step was to think about the UHMW, and I ordered a thicker UHMW from Amazon, went through the process of cutting it to size, beveling the edges, drilling out the holes I needed. That was a bit of a problem though, because this being thicker, the hardware that comes with the original J cup wasn't long enough to go through. Even when I got that to work, this still ended up being a little too thick for the rack, and it didn't allow the J cup to slide on properly. So I kept thinking about my options and what I could use, and I came up with a simpler, more efficient, even less costly fix than this UHMW. And by the way, this sheet only cost me about $21 from Amazon. That was a very good, viable option. There were some individuals who commented on the review of these saying, shims, shims, shims. Yes, that's what this is, and that's what I had been thinking of. The thought of a simple washer evaded me until giving it more thought. Or this is essentially the hack that I've used. Washers are about 40 cents each, and it literally takes 2 to 3 minutes to get through this on each J cup. So I have plenty of washers, and this whole hack would only cost you time. Sandwich a washer in between the metal of the J cup and the back UHMW, and that's exactly what I have here. I'll demonstrate this washer. It sits in because it's what I have in between the UHMW and the metal of the J cup. And I have one each on this screw and one each on the bottom screw here. That alone has fixed the problem. However, one of these is slightly larger than the other, and that's kind of a production problem, where that simple hack worked perfectly on the rack, and I'll demonstrate how that works. But with this one, it was a bit looser, and I think the bend on this J cup might be a little bit more open than on this one. So even though I did the washer hack on this one, it worked, but it still had a little bit of play, and in my test, this one still jiggled slightly. So I went and added yet another washer, a larger washer, around the pin itself. And you could actually see a little bit of that silver reflected in there. It creates a little bit of extra thickness here. With the washer here and washer here, this piece could still squeeze in. Although I have the washer and this screw, if I really squeeze with my fingers, you can see how it closes. And then I'm no longer able to get that washer in there. If I release, the washer goes in. A lot of you have offered commentary in that last review, and I do appreciate all of the comments and feedback and suggestions. If you have these and you're dissatisfied with the fitment, try a couple of washers. It'll take you 2 or 3 minutes per J cup, if that. It can be a little tricky to hold this in place and screw with one hand and tighten the Allen key on the back, but I promise you, it's a simple enough hack. It'll take you no time, and it changes the fitment entirely. So I'm going to demonstrate how these fit on the rack now. 5/8 pin, same position. Just letting them go, it doesn't slide on. So now I actually have to force it into place. As you can tell, very snug fit. The whole rack is moving. This is not going to shift anywhere. I'm going to go over to the other side, demonstrate the same thing there. This is in place the way it should have been originally. This is the other J cup. You can see, same thing. Now this one again is not as snug as the other side because for some reason this bracing here must not have been bent as tightly as the other side. So that's a production issue. This has the 2 washers between each of the screws, and I have the thicker washer around the 5/8 pin on the back side between the J-cup and the UHMW. And this creates a nice fit, but you can see there is a little bit of movement still, and you can hear that. Nonetheless, it still works. I'm now going to put the bar on with some weight so you can see how the J-cups stay in place on the uprights without moving. Instead, the rollers move and allows the bar to be centered in place the way they should have been. The bar's loaded up. I have 4 plates on each side for a total of 405. And I'm going to do what I can to shift this around and just roll it on the roller J-cups. And you can see this J-cup's not moving at all. That one moves slightly. But the amount of movement in this J-cup is so minimal, I'm not even going to chalk that up as a problem anymore. I'll put it underneath me. You see how it is? J-cups are not moving. I can come in, put this up against the J-cups, let them roll in place into the returns, even it out for my next set, no problem. Lastly, I'll show some close-up. Bar moving, J-cup solidly in place, no movement, no sliding off the upright at all. That's perfection right there. So a simple fix with washers, 2 to 3 minutes of your time. Washers are no more than 40 cents each. This does the trick for an item that will cost about 200 bucks. If you have this issue and you're dealing with it, give this hack a shot because it really is a simple and inexpensive hack. No need to order UHMW, drill holes out, cut it up or anything like that. This washer does the trick. Of course, you shouldn't have to do this. You shouldn't have to use washers or any other shims to get your attachments to fit the rack properly. But we all know that different manufacturers take different measurements into account. But it is a problem. So if you have your Go Strong Roller J-cups and you have the same kind of slack issue, a couple of washers and a few minutes of your time and you'll have this problem solved in no time. So I hope some of you can benefit from this simple hack. If you try this, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are, if this solves your problem, if this works just as well for you as it has for me. Again, as always, I appreciate your time and support, and I'll catch you on the next one.